Hello trainers, and welcome to another episode of Pokéology, a show where each week I talk to you about the biology of Pokemon based on the research that I have found. My name is Professor SACCHARUM, and this week we are going to be talking about the bird of prey Pokemon, Talonflame. As per usual, we will be asking the following questions when we look into each Pokemon. What does it look like? What does it eat? How does it survive? What makes it special? Where do I find it? And how do I train it? Let's take off by taking a look at Talonflame. Talonflame is an avian Pokemon with feathers of red, black, yellow, and gray coloring. To start off, Talonflame is 3'11" and weighs about 54 pounds. Comparing that to me, who is about 5'11" and weighs about 146 pounds, this is kinda small for a Pokemon. But for a bird Pokemon, it's fairly big. Next we'll take a look at Talonflame's beak. See how it's hooked? Well, this is to help Talonflame tear up the meat that it eats. Moving on to Talonflame's wings, we can see that Talonflame's wingspan is almost double the length of its body, not including Talonflame's tail. Speaking of tail, we can see that it has 4 tail feathers, with the 2 in the middle being larger with yellow stripes. Now let's move to the crest on Talonflame's head. It may seem a little out of place, but in fact it helps Talonflame's aerial mobility by cutting through wind resistance. Now let's move to Talonflame's legs. They're actually kind of short because Talonflame mostly stay airborne. But let's move to the feet, which contain 4 talons per foot. 3 in the front and 1 in the back. Oh, and did you notice the orange spots on the underside of Talonflame? How about the flame-like pattern on the top of Talonflame? Keep that in mind because we'll get to that later. Since it is a bird of prey, a wild Talonflame's diet primarily consists of eating smaller birds like Pidgey. They will also occasionally hunt for Bunnelby, Zigzagoon, Pikachu, Pansage, Pansear, Panpour, as well as Azurill and Bidoof. Now you're probably wondering, if Talonflame is willing to eat all of those other Pokemon, why does it primarily hunt for Pidgey? Well, you'll have to wait to find out in the next section. Anyway, like most fire types, Talonflame will use their fire to cook and catch their prey. They just prefer it that way. On the other hand, a domesticated Talonflame will eat birdseed, flying type Pokemon food, and different types of berries, preferably the spicy tomato berry. In Talonflame's natural habitat, it only really has to worry about wild Gyarados, Crawdaunt, Azumarill, and occasionally Pikachu. Now I know I just said that Pikachu is the occasional meal for Talonflame. However, Pikachu is an electric type. Because of that, it causes a problem for Talonflame because they do not want to get zapped. This is why Talonflame prefer to stick to the skies for their food, because they don't want to risk getting injured by Pikachu. Well, when it comes to Talonflame, there are many reasons to claim this Pokemon to be special. But let's take it one step at a time with Talonflame's typing of Fire and Flying. There are only 4 Pokemon with this typing, with one of them being in the same evolutionary line as Talonflame. These Pokemon are Charizard, Moltres, Ho-Oh, and Fletchinder. Now Charizard doesn't look like much of a bird, so we'll set them aside. We'll also set aside Fletchinder as well, since it is a part of the same evolutionary line as Talonflame. Now let's take a moment to think here. I have a theory that the Pokemon that are left are all related. Quite possibly through evolution. Maybe something along the lines of Moltres being able to adapt and transform the fire into feathers, becoming Ho-Oh, and then over time it turning into Talonflame. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Next, I'm going to try to explain why Talonflame's feathers look like actual flames. This may be an adaptive trait gained through years of evolution to help protect Talonflame's feathers from setting on fire. The coloring may be what holds the fire too. But enough of my crackpot theories. Let's take a look at some of Talonflame's Pokédex entries. In the fever of an exciting battle, it showers embers from the gaps between its feathers and takes to the air. When attacking prey, it can reach speeds of up to 310 miles per hour. It finishes its prey off with a colossal kick. Actually, finding a Talonflame out in the wild is quite challenging. They move so fast that it can be hard to encounter one. Even so, I wouldn't recommend going after one in the wild, because Talonflame can be very hostile. Jeez, that seems to be a really common thing with fully evolved Pokemon. But anyway, since you can't really find Talonflame, why don't you look for its pre-evolution Fletchling instead? These Pokemon are actually really good for first-time trainers, so if you want to find one of your own, you can look in the following places. Kalos' Route 2 and 3, as well as Santaloon Forest. Now it's time for me to show you how to train up your Talonflame. The first thing you're going to want to know about Talonflame is that it is a fire and flying type Pokemon, meaning that it is weak to water, electric, and extremely frail to rock type moves. However, it resists fire, fighting, steel, fairy, as well being extremely resistant to grass and bug types. Next, let's take a look at Talonflame's base stats. At first glance, these numbers don't look too well. In fact, all of Talonflame's stats are incredibly basic, except for its speed, which is at a whopping 126. 81 attack isn't too bad either, since Talonflame has access to multiple attack boosting moves. Now you're going to want to know that Talonflame has access to either one of two abilities, Flame Body and Gale Wings. Flame Body is an ability that if hit with a physical contacting move, the opponent has a 30% chance of being induced with a burn. And Gale Wings means that all flying type moves have their speed priority increased by 1. For this first set, you're going to want a Talonflame with an Adamant Nature with the Gale Wings ability. Give it the Choice Band to hold and spread the EVs 92 HP, 252 attack, and 164 speed. Then give it the moves Brave Bird, Flare Blitz, U-Turn, and either Tailwind or Will-O-Wisp. Now this may seem a bit strange because of Tailwind and Will-O-Wisp being on a choice set, but they have their uses, being able to cripple someone who switches in on Talonflame. The next set is a little less crazy and requires a Talonflame with an Adamant Nature as well, and the ability Gale Wings. Give it either the Sharp Beak or Life Orb to hold and spread the EVs 192 HP, 252 attack, 4 defense, and 60 speed. Then give it the moves Brave Bird, Flare Blitz, Sword Stance, and either Roost, Tailwind, or Will-O-Wisp. This set is more straightforward. You set up with Sword Stance and have access to your other moves as well. The final set requires you to have a Talonflame with a Careful Nature and the ability Gale Wings. Give it the Leftovers to hold and spread the EVs 212 HP, 236 special defense, and 60 speed, and give it the moves Bulk Up, Brave Bird, Roost, and either Substitute, Will-O-Wisp, or Taunt. Bulk Up gives you more attack and defense power, while you have a priority Stab, Brave Bird, and possibly a priority Roost. And there you have it, Talonflame, a bird reborn. Remember, if you liked this video, to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel for next week's Pokemon. Also, don't forget to leave your friend code and a suggestion for a Pokemon you'd like to see in the show in the comment section below. By doing that, you enter yourself in the SACCHARUM raffle, where you have the chance to win the Pokemon discussed in this week's episode. Last week I raffled off Hitmonlee, and here are the names of our winners. Congratulations! Don't forget to send me an email, which you can find in the description below, so that we can schedule a trade. This will be the last time I announce the winners of the raffle on this series of videos. So instead, you'll have to look at the series that I started this week, Guess the Pokemon. But in the meantime, I want to thank you guys for watching. Again, my name has been Professor SACCHARUM, and please join me next week for another frigid episode of Pokéology. See you next time.